Hi, you clicked on today's tropical tidbit for Monday. Over here in the Atlantic, we got the ghost of Julia, we got the ghost of Lisa, and we've got a lot of thunderstorm activity going off in the Caribbean over here. This mid-level circulation over Mexico is what's left of Matthew, still causing flooding problems and heavy rain over here in Mexico. And you can see that as this has weakened, we've shifted the heat back over to the east over here. Now we're getting a bunch of thunderstorm activity in the Caribbean. We're starting to get a little bit of a circulation developing in the low to mid levels east of Cozumel over here. The problem with the system is going to be having all this energy very spread out. You see the envelope of clouds extending well to the east of the circulation. This is going to be hard to wrap in, and this system may not have time to become too awfully strong, but I do think this is going to develop. A buoy in the area shows the pressures coming down over the last few days, and they're going to continue falling. And if we look at the water vapor over here, you can see this trough digging into the southeastern US over here, and this is going to be key as this comes up, because this system right here is going to take about 48 hours to organize, and then after 48 hours it's going to end up in Florida, and then it's going to come up towards the Carolinas. And this system is not likely to be too horridly strong. When you have this trough coming in here, you're going to be taking a lot of dry air and punching it into the Gulf of Mexico, which means that this storm, once it develops, is going to probably take on the look of one of those lopsided tropical systems that you often get in the early and latter part of the hurricane season, where it's weighted on the east side, and most of the precipitation is to the east of the center, meaning it will probably not be a hurricane when you get a presentation like that. But if we get a storm to come up like this across Florida and into the Carolinas, you're going to end up bashing southeast Florida the most, and you're going to end up bashing North Carolina the most over here. And it may actually be North Carolina that gets the worst of this, because it'll have the most time to come up, get ventilated by the trough, and then strengthen, and you're going to get a lot of heavy rain. And you can already see a lot of rain developing along this frontal boundary coming into the southeast, so there's going to be a lot of rain coming up for these folks during the next several days. And let's remember why all this is happening over here. If we look at the water temperatures, remember when we have a hyperactive Cape Verde hurricane season, you get a lot of Cape Verde hurricanes out here in the central and eastern Atlantic, and this pulls a net westward component of wind out of the Caribbean. The trade winds are still coming out of the east and southeast over here. In the western Caribbean, you get air spreading out, which makes the air sink from above to replace it at the surface, and you get subsidence and a great lack of activity in the Caribbean. You shut that down. But once you get the hurricanes, once you get the Cape Verde season to shut down via normal seasonal processes, you get the hurricanes to leave. All the cold water that they left behind helps focus upward motion in this area of the world. The trade winds are renewed, and you start focusing convergence, and air piles up in this area of the world, and you start getting that activity. And then coupled with the cold water in the eastern Pacific, you start drawing the monsoon trough northward towards where the air is rising the most, which is where the water is warmest. And then you start seeing stuff like this. We've got a massive monsoonal circulation stuck up here. Normally you would see it down here, but notice how the southwest winds out of the eastern Pacific just keep on going until they get to the Caribbean, and this is why we're seeing the big monsoonal circulation. The difficulty with this is that it can take a long time to bundle something like this together. There is a lot of heat here, and a lot of heat does not necessarily mean that you're going to get a major hurricane out of it, because a lot of heat also means more effort to get it together. In order to release it efficiently, you have to have time to bundle it and get it into a strong storm. Here it may be a little hard to do that in this particular situation. We will have to watch for potential rapid deepening as it comes across southeast Florida, but it is likely that this will be a tropical storm in southeast Florida, and then again in North Carolina be a tropical storm, albeit I think a stronger one by a little bit. And then it's not going to be over again once we move on over here towards day 7 on the GFS ensembles. 500 millibar height, you see the trough leaves. Whatever was down here is up here now, leaving within the trough, and you can see the ridge coming in behind. And remember what happens behind troughs. The flow over here is converging aloft, which means you start building pressures at the surface over here, and you get high pressure over top of pressures that are lowering in here, still lowering, and you start the process all over again. And we see that through the first half of October we still see upward motion in green colors in the western central Atlantic, and this is going to be something to continue watching throughout October. If we go out to day 15 on the ensembles, notice all the precipitation still sitting in the Western Caribbean. The ensembles show lowering of pressures in the Western Caribbean, so this is still a pattern where we're going to have to be watching where things come and develop in here, monsoonal in nature a lot of the time, and just plain lots of heat building in here that you have to get rid of. This is the last area of the Atlantic to drain of energy. You can see the broad troughing to the northeast, which is necessary to draw the heat out and bring it up, and this is the primary axis where you're going to be seeing a lot of these things come up, and that means that Florida, the eastern Gulf of Mexico, and the Carolinas, the southeastern U.S. as a whole is most at risk from this, as well as the Bahamas and Caribbean islands. And also, speaking of the Caribbean, I forgot to mention that this guy out here is going to be trouble. This area of low pressure coming west-northwestward during the next several days may start to get in on the action as it comes into this area of the world in about a week or so, and see if it starts to interact with the stuff going on in here and see if we can get some trouble. But the overall message is the Southwest Atlantic Basin is primed for development. Lots of heat going on here. We have shut down the Cape Verde season, therefore we have focused everything over here, and we're going to start watching out for more threats to the southeastern U.S. The first one coming from this will probably get named Nicole within the next couple of days. Will get drawn north, probably will be a double hit, Florida and then North Carolina, and shouldn't be too strong, but will be a big rain event, and definitely some nasty weather to come from this, so keep an eye on it and we shall see what happens. That is it for today. Thanks for watching.